My inbox chimed, and there it was, a message that shattered 5 years of dedication in a single sentence. Please clear your workspace by end of day. HR will finalize your separation. I blinked at the screen, the words smearing slightly as my vision blurred, not from tears, but disbelief. After half a decade building a high-performing team at Northfield Logistics, this was how they let me go. A sterile, emotionless email? All this, because I had taken 3 days off. 3 approved days to bury my father. We require staff who prioritize their duties, the email added, like skipping a quarterly review to mourn my father was some casual social faux pas. I leaned back in my chair, the creak of leather echoing in the quiet, pre-dawn office. The sky outside was just beginning to lighten over Denver, and I had come in early, ready to catch up after my brief absence. Before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. We're excited to connect with all of you, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing content. Now back to the story. My name is Samantha Blake, and until a few minutes ago, I was the regional coordinator of Northfield's most successful division. I was 35, and I hadn't just built a career, I'd fostered a team that felt like family. We marked milestones together, leaned on one another through hardship, and shared in our wins like a unit. I glanced around at my desk. There was the little succulent my team gave me for the holidays. A framed picture of all of us at our last off-site, and a few handwritten thank you notes from the people I had mentored over the years. 5 years, reduced to a cardboard box. The termination notice was signed by Greg Sumner, my direct manager, the very same person who had approved my bereavement leave the week before. Failure to maintain consistent availability during critical periods, it claimed. Apparently, my father's passing had the audacity to fall during one of those mysterious critical windows. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't stomp into Greg's office demanding answers. Instead, I took out my phone, snapped a picture of the email, forwarded it to my personal account, shut down my laptop, and calmly began to pack. As the office slowly came to life, my desk was already half cleared. Maria, from finance, was the first to notice. "Sam? What's going on?" she asked, her brow furrowed as she saw me boxing my things. "I've been let go," I said, my voice flat. "What? Why?" "Apparently. Taking approved leave to attend my father's funeral shows. I don't prioritize work enough." Her face shifted from confusion to disbelief. That's outrageous. Have you spoken to Clara in upper management? She needs to know." "No," I said softly, wrapping my plant in newspaper. "I'm not going to fight it. But I'm not going to forget it either. Over the years, you get to know people, how they react, how they think, just by watching them. So as more of my team arrived and saw what was happening, their expressions said more than words could. Riley, one of my most trusted team members, was the first to react. "This is total crap," he muttered, his usual upbeat energy replaced by fury. "It's over, Riley," I said, gently stopping him with a look. Greg made his decision, but we just wrapped the Fairview integration. We hit every metric. Profits are up nearly 20%. I gave a tired smile. Apparently, that wasn't enough. By 9:30 a.m., all 7 members of my core team had gathered silently around me. Trent, our logistics ace, usually stoic, looked like he might put a fist through the wall. Jasmine, who managed our client accounts, had tears streaming down her cheeks. Behind them were Miles, Olivia, Nina, Leo, and Kate, each showing a mix of anger and confusion. "You can't go," Jasmine whispered. "The Baxter renewal is next week. The Langston negotiations are still in progress. No one knows the system like you do." I sealed the last flap on my box. Greg should have thought this through before dismissing me over something as human as grief. My voice was calm, but every word I said carried weight. My father had been laid to rest only a week ago. I still remembered the cold breeze at the cemetery, the way the earth looked freshly turned. And now, just days later, I was standing in the office I'd helped build, betrayed by the very company I gave so much to. "Everyone back to your stations," came a sharp, commanding voice. Greg stood just behind my team, arms folded, his expression disapproving as always. "We have deadlines to hit." No one moved. "Now," he barked, raising his voice slightly. After a heavy pause, one by one, my teammates peeled away, each throwing me a glance full of loyalty, frustration, and sadness. Greg walked toward me, speaking low. "This could have been handled with more discretion. You should have waited until after hours to pack." I looked him in the eyes. "You mean like the discretion you used when you fired me through email?" After approving my leave? His jaw clenched. "The company's needs evolve fast. Northfield needs people who adapt. Your father's death was unfortunate, but..." "Don't," I cut in, my tone sharp enough to slice glass. "Don't finish that sentence, Greg." For just a second, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Uncertainty? He straightened his posture, brushed a hand over his tie. "HR is waiting for you. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." "Don't worry," I said as I lifted my box. "I won't make a scene. But don't forget this moment, Greg. It may come back to you one day." The HR office was cold and impersonal, white walls, muted tones, and a woman named Lena, whose smile was sympathetic but trained. She was new, maybe 6 months in, and clearly uncomfortable with what was unfolding. "I'm really sorry about all this, Sam," she said gently. "And I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you," I said, unfolding the separation papers. Standard severance, 2 weeks. A non-disparagement clause. A reminder of my non-compete, which would prevent me from working at similar firms for 6 months. "Do you know what prompted this?" she asked, genuinely curious. "It seems abrupt." I hesitated, then pulled out my phone and showed her the email. 3 days of approved leave to bury my father, and this is how they respond. No warnings, no conversation. Her eyes widened as she read the message. "This is the only documentation? No write-ups? Nothing." She scribbled something on a notepad. "I need to speak with legal about this." "Just a moment?" As she stepped out, I stared through the tall glass window behind her desk. The South Platte River flowed in the distance. Dad had loved fishing there. He taught me patience in those waters. He'd always say, "The river moves, kiddo, but the rocks? They stay steady. Be the rocks." Lena came back after about 20 minutes. Her face was unreadable, but the slight shake of her head said enough. "Nothing's changing," she confirmed. "It's at will employment. They're within their rights legally." "Understood," I said, signing without protest. "Northfield can do whatever it wants. So can I." She leaned in, dropping her voice to a whisper. "Off the record? This feels wrong. If you decide to take action." "I won't," I replied. "But thanks for saying that." As I made my way back through the office, I felt every eye on me. My team was still there, quiet, watching. I gave them one last smile, my final gesture as their leader. Outside, the warm September breeze hit me like an old friend. I placed my box in the trunk of my car and sat in the driver's seat, letting myself breathe. Letting it all settle. My phone buzzed. Then again. And again. "Riley, this is so wrong. What can we do?" "Jasmine, are you okay? Let's talk." "Trent, Greg's a coward." Everyone's furious. The messages kept coming. Kindness. Loyalty. Outrage. They weren't just coworkers, they were my people. I didn't want revenge. Not in the legal sense. I wouldn't sue, though I probably had the grounds. No, I had something else in mind. Something better. I remembered my father's words again. "Stay steady, Sam. Let the river do the rest." My phone rang. It was Harold Bennett, the CEO of Everline Transport Solutions, Northfield's biggest rival. We'd met at a logistics summit the previous year. He'd been trying to recruit me ever since. It was time to return his call. The offices at Everline Transport were everything Northfield wasn't: open, collaborative, filled with natural light. As I stepped through the glass doors, Harold Bennett met me with a warm handshake and an expression that said, "Finally. I've been hoping to hear from you," he said, leading me toward a quiet conference room. "Though, I wish the circumstances were different. Word gets around fast in our industry." Harold knew I'd been fired, even if he didn't yet have the full story. I filled him in, including a glance at Greg's cold email. "That's not just bad leadership," Harold said, eyes narrowing. "That's cruelty. Bereavement leave exists for a reason. Northfield always prioritized the bottom line over people." I said, "I just never expected to be the one discarded." He leaned forward. "Let me be direct, Sam. We're expanding our Western operations, and I want you on board. The role is division director. It's yours if you want it." My heart skipped. Division director. It was more responsibility, more visibility, and significantly better compensation. But one issue lingered. "There's the non-compete," I reminded him. He smiled. "Our legal teams looked it over. It's vague and likely unenforceable. And if they do try to push it, we'll cover the legal costs." I sat back, nodding slowly. "I'll need the weekend to think it through." "Fair enough. Let's touch base Monday," he said. That evening, I met up with Jasmine and Riley at a quiet brewery on the edge of town. I needed to decompress, and I knew they needed to talk. They walked in together, both wearing expressions of disbelief and simmering frustration. "How are you holding up?" Jasmine asked as we sat. "Honestly, I'm okay," I said. "It's been a whirlwind, but I'm going to be fine." Riley scoffed. "Greg's already flailing. No one knows where you kept the Henderson files, and access to your systems is still locked." "Sounds like a Greg problem," I said, sipping my drink. Jasmine leaned in. "It's bigger than just our team. Everyone's talking about what happened. You were one of the most respected people there, Sam. If they can do this to you, what's stopping them from doing it to anyone else?" "Clara's been asking questions too," Riley added. "She doesn't look happy." That was good to hear. As we chatted, my phone buzzed nonstop with messages: Trent, Kate, Leo, all sharing stories of how messy things had gotten at Northfield. Clients were asking questions. Projects were stalling. Morale had nosedived. "So, what's next for you?" Riley asked. I hesitated. "I got an offer from Everline. Division director." Their eyes widened. "Your non-compete?" Jasmine asked quickly. She dealt with contracts all the time. "According to their legal team, it won't hold, especially after the way I was let go." Riley's phone lit up. "Greg just scheduled an emergency Saturday meeting. That's a first. The Baxter review's due Monday," Jasmine said. "And no one can find your notes." I smiled a little. My files were all stored properly, on the server. But my system was uniquely mine. It made me feel oddly satisfied to know they were struggling to decode it. "I should head out," I said, grabbing my bag. "Early meeting tomorrow." As I stood, Riley looked up at me. "Sam, just hypothetically, if you joined Everline, would they be hiring?" I paused. "Hypothetically? Yeah, they're scaling up fast." He and Jasmine exchanged a look that said more than words. Saturday morning, I sat across from Victor Tran, a well-known employment attorney. His office was lined with law school credentials and neatly organized case files. "You've got a classic wrongful termination here," he said after reading the email. "Firing someone over approved bereavement leave is both a breach of contract and a hit against good faith." "I'm not interested in suing," I told him. "I just need clarity on the non-compete." He studied the document closely. 6 months. No competing firms within a 300-mile radius. That's essentially telling you to leave your city, or your entire industry. Is it enforceable? Unlikely, especially given how they terminated you. Courts don't tend to side with employers acting in bad faith. He offered a supportive nod. If Everline's backing you up legally, I say move forward, confidently. Victor leaned back in his leather chair, pushing his glasses up. Honestly, Samantha, they don't have a leg to stand on. If they try to enforce this non-compete after what they did to you, it'll be a hard sell in court. So you're saying it's safe to move forward? Proceed with caution, but don't let this document stop you from doing what you're clearly meant to do. That weekend, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Turns out, that emergency Saturday meeting at Northfield had been a disaster. Greg had tried to reassign parts of my work to others, with no guidance and no compensation. The Baxter account had been found, but no one could make heads or tails of my system. By Sunday evening, the decision was made. Monday morning, I called Harold. I'm in, but I have one condition. Go ahead, he said. If anyone from my old team applies, they get fair interviews. No automatic yes, but they deserve consideration. That's a deal, he said. Frankly, if they're anything like you, we'd be lucky to have them. Later that day, I officially signed on as Division Director of Western Operations at Everline. The salary? 40% higher than what I was making at Northfield, with better benefits and a juicy sign-on bonus. As I left the building, I checked my phone, 7 new messages, one from each of my closest team members. They all wanted to meet. Tuesday morning, I waited at a cozy little cafe downtown. Riley showed up first, then Jasmine. Eventually, the others, Trent, Olivia, Kate, Leo, and Nina, joined us. We took over 2 full tables. Northfield's a mess, Trent started without hesitation. Greg's running around like a lunatic. Clara's furious. Clients are panicking. The Baxter team wants to know why you're not the one handling their renewal, Jasmine added. I stirred my coffee as they unloaded story after story of pure dysfunction. Word is you've joined Everline, Riley finally said. Everyone quieted. It's true, I admitted. But, it's a risk for all of you to leave. You've got stable positions. You don't have to do this. What stability? Olivia scoffed. If they'll fire you over a funeral, none of us are safe. Everline is hiring, I said. I can't promise anything, but I can refer you. If you're serious, you'll need to apply like anyone else. We already have, Nina said, pulling out a stack of printed confirmation emails. I blinked. All 7 of you applied already? We trust you, Sam, Kate said with a simple smile. Where you go, we go. I felt overwhelmed, for once, not by stress, but by pride. And maybe, finally, a bit of peace. I'll make the calls. The next Monday, my phone rang at 7:30 a.m. Caller ID, Clara Ingram, Northfield's regional manager. Samantha, she said, voice stiff. We need to talk. Morning, Clara. What can I help you with? I've just received 7 resignation notices, all from your former team. All effective immediately. A pause. Care to explain? I don't work at Northfield anymore. You might want to ask Greg why your best team just walked out. They're all going to Everline, where you just accepted a director role. Her tone turned sharp. That doesn't seem like a coincidence. People make decisions based on where they're treated with dignity. Maybe start there. This is about your termination, isn't it? You think? I said, then paused. Greg didn't even consult you, did he? He said it was urgent. I was at a leadership summit. I trusted him. Clearly, that trust was misplaced. There was a long silence. I'm authorized to offer you your job back, with a 10% raise and a formal apology. We need you. The Baxter account is on the verge of leaving. I appreciate it, Clara. But I've moved on. We'll match your offer. Add 15%. It was never about the money. Then what would it take? And just like that, I heard something new in her voice. Desperation. It's a disaster. The loss of knowledge alone would take a time machine to fix, I said flatly. Unless someone rewinds to the day my father died and Northfield decides to show a shred of basic humanity. The line went silent. I need to go, Clara. Today's my first day at Everline, and I don't plan to be late. What about your non-compete? She tried. Have your legal team call mine, I replied evenly. But they should probably review the reason behind my termination first. After ending the call, I drove to Everline's office early, feeling ready for the next chapter. Harold was waiting at the front desk, practically glowing. We're moving ahead with interviews for all 7 of your former teammates, he said. They're impressive. Thank you for being fair, I said. Fair? Sam, they're gold. Northfield's mistake is our win. 2 days later, I got a quiet call from Lena, still in HR at Northfield. I shouldn't be telling you this, she whispered. But Greg's been put on administrative leave. Apparently, Clara had launched a full review of internal policies, especially around leave and management conduct. And the board was paying attention now. By Friday, all 7 of my former teammates had received offers from Everline, and all of them said yes. We gathered for dinner to celebrate, glasses raised. To new beginnings, Jasmine said. And to Sam, Riley added, who showed us what real leadership looks like. A week later, I received an official letter from Northfield. It was a formal acknowledgement of wrongful termination, and a settlement offer to avoid litigation. I accepted, not for the money, but because it was their way of saying we were wrong. That same day, the Baxter account signed with Everline. The client had followed us after learning we were now all working together. The river had changed course, but like my father always said, the rocks stay steady. 3 months in, I stood at the front of Everline's largest conference room, presenting our quarterly results to the executive board. The numbers said it all. 30% growth, 4 new major clients, 3 formerly Northfields. 22% improvement in operational efficiency. Exceptional work, Harold said. You've exceeded every benchmark. The team deserves the praise, I told him. They're phenomenal. After the meeting, I returned to my office to find all 7 of them standing around a cake. What's this? I asked. It's been 3 months since we all jumped ship, Trent said. We're calling it Independence Day. I laughed, overwhelmed in the best way. You're ridiculous, I said, smiling. But I love it. Seriously. Sam, Olivia added. Everyone's doing better here. We're thriving. She was right. Each of them had grown in their new roles. They had autonomy, respect, resources, and most importantly, they were treated like people, not tools. Then my phone buzzed with a news alert. Northfield Logistics announces restructuring amid client exodus. I held it up for the others. They just lost the Langston account, Trent added. That's nearly 20% of their Western region's revenue. Greg's gone, Nina said. Office cleared out last Friday. I didn't feel smug, just justified. Northfield hadn't collapsed because we left. It fell because it treated people as disposable. Because burying a father was seen as a betrayal of company loyalty. To Northfield, I said, lifting my water glass. May they finally learn that a company is only as strong as how it treats its people. And to Sam, Kate added, who reminded us we deserved better. 6 months after joining Everline, I received a lunch invitation from Clara. She'd left Northfield and was now consulting for companies on how to fix toxic culture. We met at a calm restaurant overlooking the South Platte River. She looked different, lighter, somehow. Thank you for meeting me, she said. You weren't the one who fired me, I reminded her. No, she said, but I built the environment where it could happen. She told me the board brought in outside consultants after we left. That everything began to unravel once the team walked out. Clara told me the consultants had done a full sweep, looking at every mistake. Every policy that failed the people it was meant to protect. The report wasn't kind to the leadership team. I listened quietly. Northfield's being sold, she finally said. Meridian Freight is buying it out, for a fraction of its value. Basically just acquiring the name and some leftover contracts. It didn't surprise me. The company had been bleeding clients and talent ever since they chose profit over people. And Greg? I asked. Still jobless. No one wants to touch him now. She gave a little shrug. Let's just say, your story made its rounds. I hadn't gone around telling it, but when people asked, I didn't lie either. I just told the truth. I've learned a lot since then, Clara said. Now I help companies avoid the same mess we created. As we wrapped up lunch, she finally asked the question I'd seen lingering behind her eyes. Was it worth it, leaving quietly instead of fighting? I thought about my team at Everline, thriving, respected, finally working in a place where they mattered. I thought about the clients who followed us, not because we sold harder, but because we cared more. I thought about my dad. About what he used to say. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is nothing loud at all. Yeah, I said, smiling. It was worth it. The results speak for themselves. Exactly 1 year after Greg's email ended my job at Northfield, Everline promoted me to Executive Vice President of Operations for the Northwest region. Our division had become the company's gold standard, most efficient, most innovative, and with the highest team satisfaction in the company. Each of the 7 who followed me had been promoted too. Riley now led his own region. Jasmine had redefined our client services model and gained industry recognition. The others had stepped into roles they never would have been given at Northfield. We didn't just recover, we soared. Then one day, a small package arrived. Inside was my old cactus, the one from my desk at Northfield. Still alive, bigger now, tucked beside it. A note from Lena. Saved this. Thought you might want it back. Northfield closes for good next week. I placed the cactus on my windowsill. It looked right at home. Like me, it had survived being thrown aside. And it had found a better place to grow. That evening, I drove out to the South Platte River, where my dad used to take me fishing. I stood on the shore, listening to the current ripple around the stones. The same water, always moving. The same rocks, steady beneath it. I thought about how one cold, impersonal email changed everything, and how that single moment eventually led to something better. Not just for me, but for every person who believed in me enough to follow. You were right, Dad, I whispered to the wind. You just have to stay steady. Let the river do its work. I realized then that my revenge hadn't been about burning down Northfield. It had been about building something better, something they could never undo. A place where grief isn't weakness. Where people matter. Where leaders lift others up. True revenge isn't destruction, it's replacing broken systems with something so strong, so good, that the old one becomes irrelevant. And my father would have been proud of that. I looked ahead and felt nothing but gratitude. Even for the hard parts. Even for the loss. Because sometimes, the worst things? They're just the beginning of something greater. If you can be like the rocks. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Whether you faced injustice at work or simply believe in standing up for what's right, your voice matters. Drop a comment below if you've ever experienced a workplace that forgot your humanity, or if you found the courage to walk away and build something better. Let's lift each other up. Hit the bell icon so you never miss another story of strength, resilience, and real-world redemption. Until next time, stay steady like the rocks.